The Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday night have officially put this series in a stranglehold.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, and we are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this podcast your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer for the Hockey Writers. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. I am super excited to bring you a Friday edition of the show that's going to give over some Game 3 reactions. Talk about some quotes, talk about overall thoughts from the game as well. After the fact that the Hurricanes made this a 3-0 series. And also going to talk about some news updates as well that we've had some pregame and also some stuff that's also from the postgame as well. And then also be answering some fan questions. Thank you to the Everydayers and fellow Caniacs for sending your questions. I really like doing these little reactions right after games. So hopefully we get to do that a lot more often during this 2024 NHL playoff run for your Carolina Hurricanes. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So like I said, we're going to go into some Game 3 reactions and just everything that was kind of seen when watching the game and also taken away from what Brind'Amour had said, along with some other players from the Carolina Hurricanes as well. And just overall, you could really tell that you thought the Islanders were going to come out strong in this one, and they pretty much did. They overall outshot the Hurricanes, they out-hit the Hurricanes, and even more so, they just beat them in the face-off dot too. And of course, that's a whole separate thing of itself, for the fact that it just seems like the refs in this game were just doing way too many fake outs, way too many shenanigans in the dot. It's getting to the point where it's like, just drop the puck, please. That's all we ask for. But it's one of those things where, the Hurricanes didn't really get as much opportunities as you saw in Game 2, but they were able to capitalize, and that's why you see that Carolina Hurricanes are now up 3-0 in the series after winning on Thursday night 3-2 on Long Island to basically, like I said, put a stranglehold on this series, with the chance that the Hurricanes might have a shot of possibly sweeping on Saturday. Not knock on wood, not trying to, put whatever juju or bad voodoo or whatever you want to call it on this one. But as Walt Ruff on, the Carolina Hurricanes, content writer, beat writer, has also said, it is a possibility. So we have to put it out there that yes, your Carolina Hurricanes have a shot of finishing the series on Saturday, possibly in Game 4. But like I said, overall, just a solid game from, it wasn't a lot of shots that we saw on Tuesday night, or sorry, Monday night in Carolina in Game 2. But for the fact that the Hurricanes came out, got the goals that were really necessary in the first period. You got goals from Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov, and then also Sebastian Aho got a goal as well in the second period. And that's kind of basically all she wrote. You got the 3 goals that you needed. The Islanders only got 2. And Frederik Andersen, once again, save after huge save after huge save. Just Noah Dobson at this point has to hate facing Freddie Andersen right now, for the fact that he is just absolutely lights out in terms of just stopping him. I don't know what more he could do to beat Frederik Andersen, but I bet you Freddie haunts his dreams, just like Freddy Krueger, because I don't know what more he could do to beat him. It's just whatever time he takes a shot on, Zilla or Freddie or however you want to, name our Great Dane. It's just everything he's saving is just absolutely fantastic to watch. And also, too, the fact that the old school Dominic Hasek windmill-esque save he did as well. Like, oh my goodness, Mr. Andersen. That was just otherworldly. After again, trip from behind from Anders Lee, basically falls down and still has the wherewithal to throw his glove up and absolutely just rob another shot that might have gotten for the Islanders. And I love the comparisons already that people are going like, paint me like one of your French girls if you've ever seen Titanic. It's just so great seeing like a lot of those jokes were already being done, and you gotta give credit to Freddie. Like another great game from him. Just only 2 more goals given up, but like I don't know what more you can ask out of him. He saved 29 of 31, and the fact that his save percentage in the game was a .935. What more can you really ask out of him? Like that's the type of game you love to see out of Freddie Andersen. He does a phenomenal job doing what he does, and it's just continuing the pace that he's been on for the Hurricanes in the first 3 games against the New York Islanders. And we can't look past the goals that we saw from Orlov, Burns, and Aho, and also got to talk about the fact that Andrei Svechnikov got 2 assists in this game. He got the primary helper on the Dmitry Orlov goal, and he also got the primary assist on the Sebastian Aho goal that regained the Hurricanes 2-goal lead at the time, making it 3-1 in the second period. So big game from Andrei Svechnikov. That gives him 4 assists in 3 games so far. So while he's not scoring, you are still happy to see for the fact that he's still being able to do what he does best and is getting the assist. He's a playmaker. Tracy even said on the broadcast too that he is a pass first guy, and you're really seeing that. And the fact that right now Andrei Svechnikov does lead the Hurricanes in points right now with those 4 assists, which like I said, you really can't be mad about. Yeah, he's not scoring, but he's getting the helpers. He's setting his teammates up to play it really well. And Frederik Andersen, right, and going back to Freddie real quick, just in this series, like I said, he had a .935 save percentage in Game 3. Overall, in the series itself, he's got a 3-0 record with a 2.01 goals against and a .922 save percentage. So like how we talked about on the Thursday show, he was at a .917. Now you bump that up, and now he's into a .922 just after a great game like that. So overall, it's a game that you can kind of, yes, it wasn't what you saw in Game 2, but if you really look at it as a whole and just look at it in a perspective, it's something that you can be very happy about, that you got the win. They don't ask how, they ask how many, and the Hurricanes got their other one that they really need. So diving into more of the game, what, stats and what people said and all that good stuff as well. So Brent Burns on his goal that made it 1-0 for the Hurricanes pretty early on in the game, that was actually his 23rd postseason goal for active defensemen, which actually puts him tied first amongst active defensemen with Chris Letang of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So big congrats to Brent Burns, who now currently holds the number 1 spot in a tied position with Letang for most goals for Blue Liners that are currently active with his 23rd. So big congratulations to him. And talking about, like I said, going back to Freddie Andersen again, it's like there's nothing like what else can you say about this guy? And the fact that when asked about how Frederik Andersen played, Rod Brind'Amour postgame said, obviously Freddie came up with a couple of huge saves, and that's the difference in the game. Yeah, I would say so. Like I said, you rob Noah Dobson, you make that huge windmill save in the third period to basically almost solidify the win, just absolutely just robbing the Islanders once again. Like if you're talking about like how you need a goalie to steal you games, that's basically what Freddie Andersen was in Game 3. Just absolutely like stole that game. Yes, the Hurricanes scored 3. The Islanders did score 2, but Frederik Andersen, even later in the game when there's like 6 minutes left and the Islanders were just pushing and pushing and pushing, Frederik Andersen didn't, he had the composure, ice in the veins, like nothing bothered him, just calm, cool, collected, and just played absolutely out of his mind. And that's, like I said, that's all you really need in your goaltender. And the fact that he made a lot of huge plays to, freeze the puck when they needed it, came up with the big saves when they also needed it too. And it's just to see how he's playing and and the guys are playing in front of him too right now. That's all you can really ask for. And now that makes things really interesting for Game 4 on Saturday is do you go to Frederik Andersen and finish this thing out, keep riding him as the hot hand, or do you maybe go to Pierre Kachekov? And I know even Mike Maniscalco and Shane Willis said it on Kane's cast that there's the possibility they could go to him. of Pyotr Kochetkov in Game 4 just to make sure that he's not still staying out longer and longer, because he hasn't played since the second to last game of the season against the Chicago Blackhawks almost like 2-3 weeks ago. So it's kind of like you don't want to have him sit too long. And, he can win you a game too. So it's not like you're just like throwing someone in there. It's like he could win you a game if they put him in for Game 4. But they could go with Frederik Andersen again to keep riding the hot run that he's been on too. So anything is a possibility. But like I said, overall, you just gotta love how Freddie's playing. There's nothing else you can really say about that. He's a brick wall, So hopefully someone put a wellness check on Tokyo, because Zilla is coming for him, because that's just how dominant he's been for the Hurricanes this postseason run so far in the first 3 games. And Ron Brind'Amour even talked about it more too. He goes, the whole game he was very, very sharp, and obviously was the difference. Basically just keeps talking about, like, he's doing his thing. He's just doing his thing, and that's all you can really ask for, and that's what you got from a guy like Frederik Andersen. The fact that he just kept going and going and going. It's phenomenal to see. And even Jordan Martinook was asked about it, and it's just the fact that so Walt Ruff tweeted this out with a laugh after another brilliant performance from Frederik Andersen. Jordan Martinook said, "I don't get impressed by him anymore because he does it every night." And he's not wrong. He's just not wrong. It's just a common thing that you're going to see from Frederik Andersen almost every single game. And like, okay, cool. Frederik Andersen does another thing, and there you go. And we just move on. That's just, like I said, Frederik Andersen doing Frederik Andersen things. So one last thing, talking about the game specifically itself, looking at the 5-on-5 time on ice, just seeing where everyone was kind of at for the most part. Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield actually led the entire team in terms of on time tonight. So the third D pair basically led the entire team in what was time on ice. Dmitry Orlov had 18 minutes and 9 seconds. Jalen Chatfield had 17:28. And then after that was Brady Shea at 17:12, Jacob Slavin at 16:58, and then Brent Burns at 16 minutes. The top forward with the most minutes was Jordan Martinook, actually, with 15:48, and then it was Seth Jarvis at 14:31, and then Jordan Stahl at 14:28. So, like, your third line, which it's not surprising the fact that they're always the ones that kind of start every face-off for the start of the period. It's not surprising that third line is continuously in that top, like, echelon of minutes for the forward core. And then other notable names, Andrei Svechnikov, 14:16, and then Jesperi Kotkaniemi, 13:43. And I want to say this too. Jesperi Kotkaniemi has really put his presence being felt on this series right now. Big hit in Game 2, absolutely just smashing Cal Clutterbuck into the boards. This game, really great defensive plays, really great setups for his teammate. He is playing really solid defense, throwing the body around. He's making it very hard for Rod Brind'Amour to ever take him out of the series. We will go over some news updates about why he probably won't sit for the rest of the playoffs. But even if there was, possibilities of guys, if they were potentially to come back and all that stuff, that would he be able to be taken out? I would not take out just Barry Kotkaniemi right now because he's playing that good. So like I said, with the new stuff, we are going to get into that for our segment 2. We'll do that right here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. When drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building a talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose name on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor the job. Something I love about Indeed itself is the fact that candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to U.S. Indeed data. And even more so, with Indeed matching, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Boom! It's hiring at warp speed. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we are going to go over some general news that were happening before and after the game as well, because there's a lot of stuff that happened in between Thursday's show and this video that we're doing for this episode of Friday for the Friday show. On Thursday, the Carolina Hurricanes actually called up defenseman Ronan Seeley from the Chicago Wolves. Basically, in essence, the Carolina Hurricanes are just adding to their Black Aces core. So, with Antti Raanta coming back up, Dylan Coghlan, and Max Comtois, now they're adding a third Chicago Wolf, along with, like I said, Comtois and Antti Raanta. Now you're bringing in Ronan Seeley. This season for the Wolves, Ronan Seeley had 14 points in 58 AHL games. So I don't really expect him to probably make an appearance in the playoffs. It's just an extra bite that the Hurricanes could use in case something does happen and stuff like that, especially like I said, with how Brett Pesce is unfortunately unavailable for the rest of the series. And now they're kind of down to Tony DeAngelo coming in. Now you have Scott Morrow. You also got Dylan Coghlan, and now you got Ronan Seeley as potential Black Aces and backups in case anything else happens. But at least you're adding some more depth to your playoff roster and stuff like that. So it's good to see Ronan Seeley making an appearance. It's curious to see how that plays out. But in terms of actually playing in games, doubtful, but it's a good extra body to have just in case. In other news, in terms of, we all know what's going on with Brett Pesce. He's unfortunately going to be missing the rest of this series. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We don't know a specific time date of when he's going to be back. He might be back for round 2. Could be conference final. We're not really sure of what's the extent of that is yet. But we do know, unfortunately, in pregame, Ron Brind'Amour told media that in terms of Jesper Fast, that they won't be available. Basically, he thinks that really the whole playoffs, no matter how far we go, so that's one really tough for him because you put in all that work. And it was also later confirmed by Walt Ruff that unfortunately Fost is out for the playoffs. So they're still saying upper body. We don't really know for sure what exactly to what extent the upper body, what is that injury, but we do know for sure that he is ruled out for the playoffs, and which really stinks for him for the fact that he was hurt later. He was hurt at the other part of the season, missed some games. He comes back, really tries to get back into the flow of things and stuff like that, and then you're playing in game 8 to a lot of your normal, a lot of your regulars are resting. You're throwing in some of your younger guys so they can get some time in. You get your NHL debuts in, and see what it's like playing in an NHL game. And you're playing the Columbus Blue Jackets in the last game of the regular season on a Tuesday, and unfortunately he gets hurt. And now he's out for the playoffs. And like I said, you hate seeing it for a guy who's busted his butt all year. He's been playing really well. He's been, a consistent guy that the Hurricanes have had for the last couple seasons. And you want to see him be able to contribute to the playoff run and, be a part of the team. And now in the last regular season game, you get hurt and now you're out for the entire playoffs. It's just absolutely brutal. You hate to see it for a guy like Jesper Fast, who's, like I said, who's worked really hard. And now you're not going to see him play in the playoffs. So all I can say is I'm hoping for a safe and speedy recovery for, Quickie. Hopefully it's nothing super, super serious. Maybe there's a chance he could come back. Who really knows? But they're likely saying he's out. But who knows? Well, all I can say is hopefully, it's nothing super serious, and hopefully it's just he's safe and taken care of, which he is. But you just hate to see it for a guy like that. So, like I said, nothing but a quick and safe recovery for Quickie, Jesper Fast, and just stinks he's not going to be able in the playoffs for the Hurricanes. Also, so while the Hurricanes do have the potential chance to clinch the series and basically end this thing early on Saturday. There is that contingency in case it doesn't happen. There is an official start time for the Tuesday, April 30th game for Game 5 back in Carolina. It is confirmed that start time will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So for everyone who possibly have tickets to Game 5, that is the puck drop on Tuesday night on April 30th, is the fact that it will be a 7:30 start time for Game 5 in case something happens Saturday where the Hurricanes might not, end the series early. We do know at least a start time for next Tuesday's Game 5 back in Carolina. And the last really thing to touch up on, just in terms of like what the team's going to do with their off day in between, Thursday's Game 3 and then Saturday's Game 4. The Hurricanes will practice at UBS Arena at 1 p.m. on Friday as well. And of course, Ryan Brind'Amour and certain players are going to be available for, questions and all that stuff. But that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of practices and stuff like that. And like I said, now we know what game times are for Tuesday in case, this thing does have to go extending 4 and just other roster news and updates and all that good stuff. So that's all in terms of news. But we are going to do some fan questions. I'm really excited to go over these. It's been a lot of fun doing some fan questions, and I'm really, really excited to jump into these. And we're going to get to that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches in the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landlords with a wrecking ball. Charge the players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So, like I said, we're going to jump into some fan questions. Thank you to the everydayers, or thank you to Caniacs in general for sending your questions in. Always really happy to do stuff like this. And like I said, makes the show more interactive and nice having a back and forth too with you guys. Technically, you're just listening to me talk for 30 minutes, but it's good to be able to, get some questions from you guys and be able to answer them. So I'm hoping to make this a daily thing after every game, and hopefully during the regular season next year as well. And of course, throughout this upcoming off season, hopefully after a Stanley Cup, knock on wood. But yeah, this is going to be a fun thing to do almost from now on when we get a chance to do it. So from the Storm Cellar, they ask options on KK, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. With Faust out entirely, it really falls on his shoulders the whole way. Will he rise to the occasion? And they put in parentheses things. I think he has. I definitely think he has. I already think he has stepped up. You can see it in the analytics card tonight on the hockey stats. If you haven't checked it out, make sure to go to hockeystatcards.com. Or if you're on Twitter, go check out my post about it. I did tweet out the actual card itself and, gave my thoughts on it. And for me, Jesperi Kotkaniemi had probably the best, net positive. Like, yeah, there was other players who had like farther, positive scores and stuff like that, with a mix of a little bit of a negative, but nothing too serious. But in terms of just straight positive with a no negative result, Jesperi Kotkaniemi had that perfect analytical night. And you saw it. You saw in how he played. Didn't take any penalties. He made the plays that were necessary. He may have not showed up on the score sheet, but in general, he's been doing what he's been doing all season. But he's also added the physical element. He's been throwing his body around. He's, like I said, he's made his presence felt in the last 2 games. And will he rise to the occasion? I think he has. And I think for the fact that Jesper Foss is out, so even if Foss might have come back, Jesperi Kotkaniemi has made it very, very difficult for Rod and his coaching staff to take him out. But now with the news of his injury, I doubt he will ever be taken out of the lineup. Yes, you do have like the healthy scratches of Brind'Amour, Jackson Blake, Bradley Nadeau, but right now, I would not take Jesperi Kotkaniemi out of the lineup. And for the fact that the Hurricanes are on a 3-0 run, and that's including with Jesperi being the second line center over the last couple of games, I would not take him out. He's been playing really well as that second line center. And I say you keep rolling with it. Just keep going. You're playing really well as a core with those guys together. Don't change a thing. Jesperi's been playing great. I even said the physicality's been great. I've been really liking his game, and that's someone I wouldn't take out of the lineup. So big props to Jesperi for, being a healthy scratch for a good majority of the games at the end of the season. You come back in the playoffs and you've been absolutely putting, boots to butts, throwing the body, absolutely slamming, Cal Clutterbuck in game 2, putting the physicality on in game 3. Keep it going. I say keep him in. He's playing phenomenal. But thank you to Storm Seller for that question. Kate Bartlett, friend of the podcast, always sending in questions. Thank you, Katie, for always, bringing the questions every time we do these things. She asked, with TDA in the lineup, talking about Tony DeAngelo, I think the Canes have the best overall D-core of any team in the playoffs. 2 goals tonight and lots of elite plays to break up chances. Agree or disagree? Is there another playoff team that comes close to matching them? I would say overall, I think he had a decent game. There were some aspects where he did make some good plays, clutch stick lifts in the right times in certain moments. Overall ice time, wasn't bad. I think it was over 13 minutes. I would say he's been playing. He played decent. I wouldn't, would I say he was probably up there with how Burns or Orlov or Slavin played? No, but I would say that he had a decent game overall. With the unfortunate defensive breakdown with him and Shea on the second Islanders goal, it's kind of tough, but you really can't put that on him. It's just an overall defensive breakdown. Nothing else you can really say about that. But I think overall, DeAngelo played a decent game, all things considered. In terms of other playoff teams that could match them, it's kind of tough. Right now the Panthers are playing really well. I know they're up 3-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Overall, they have a pretty solid defense. If you're looking out west, it's kind of tough. Some of the games are being way more interesting than I thought they would be in terms of who's playing well. So I would say at best you're probably looking at Florida, as you're probably one of the other teams that have a really good defense. I could maybe say Boston as well if you really want to look at it. But I would say if you're talking like who's the next best team, I would say the Florida Panthers for sure. Just because how well they're playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning and the fact that they're up 3-0 in that series. Thank you, Katie, for always sending in your questions. This one's from Kessler. Watching the games, how do you think Carolina has been able to stifle the Islanders this well so far? If there are any, what are some differences you've noticed or felt from last year's series with them? I will say that, with how I would say for the fact that how they've been stifling them, it's just the same thing that they've been doing all year. They're, playing shutdown defense. They're making the plays when necessary, not taking unnecessary penalties. I think for game 3, there was a couple offensive zone penalties more than anything else. Nothing related to the defensive side of things. So I would say just the fact that they keep playing their structured defense. Yes, unfortunately, one of the goals was a defensive breakdown. But overall, outside of that one little puck watch incident, I think the defense has been playing pretty well overall over the last couple of games. Like I said, just because they're sticking to their normal defense, the style that Tim Gleason has been teaching those guys to do. And I think that's just been what's mainly helping them still play hockey. Yes, they got outshot in this game compared to game 2, but overall, I don't think the defense has really changed outside of just personnel because of due to injury. But overall, defense has been great. Like I said, just been playing their game, playing their strategy. That's been working all year for them. So you can't really be too much upset about that. Any differences? I think a lot more physicality out of the Hurricanes. the Hurricanes aren't a soft team. Like they can throw the body when they really need to, but they're going to use their speed, they're going to use their skill and all that stuff. But I will say like there's a lot more grit on this team, and it's not just from like guys like Brind'Amour or Tony DeAngelo. It's like just Barry Kotkaniemi's throwing the body, Seth Jarvis is throwing the body more. Like it seems like everyone is just throwing bodies. So I think it's just they're a little bit more physical, but they're playing a game against the Islanders where you can tell that this team is not going to be pushed around. They're not, and they were never really a push around team last year either. It's just you can sense that these guys really, really want it bad, which, like I said, every team wants it bad every year. But you can kind of feel that intensity with this team. There's a little something extra with this Hurricanes team this year. So, yeah, I would definitely say a little bit more physicality than you've usually seen, but they're not going to, like I said, they're not going to put up like 40, 50 hits a game, but they're throwing it when necessary. They're getting the clutch chances when they need it to score. And you kind of just feel it. You can feel the energy that there's something special with this team. So, yeah, you could definitely notice there's a little bit of a difference for the good for the Carolina Hurricanes. So thank you, Kessler, for your question. So this one is from Kat Whetstone. Thoughts about the importance of goaltending this series? Andersen has played lights out. Kochetkov earned his number 2 spot in the regular season. Going forward, who would be best to play in net and why? I would say, Pierre Kochetkov played really well in the regular season. I would never really say that, he earned a number 2 spot. I think he definitely put himself into a 1B situation with Frederik Andersen, because that's what you saw ever since Freddie came back over the last 20 games of the regular season was a 1A, 1B, because Rod just continuously rotated them as the season went on, especially the fact you look at March where it was like 14 games in 24 days with 3 back-to-backs in that process as well. And you're basically playing almost every other day. And there was one point they were playing like 4 games in like 6 days. So I would definitely say it was more of a 1A, 1B for those guys. But who would be best to play in net? Honestly, they're both good. They're both good in net. You could put Pierre Kochetkov in net in game 4, and he could probably win you that game. No problem. You can put Frederik Andersen back in the first 4th straight. He could probably get you that win too. So I wouldn't say there's anyone who's best. I just think of Frederik Andersen's right in the hot hand. They could go with him. But if you want to get Pierre Kochetkov in so he doesn't get rusty and just kind of sit for too long, he's a good option too. So, you really can't go wrong with either of these goalies. So I would definitely say, it's a good 1A, 1B situation going on. And I think both of those goalies can play really well in net. I couldn't really put one over the other. It's just, do you ride the hot hand and just keep running with one guy, or, do you give the other guy a shot so he's not sitting for too long? And the importance of goaltending in this series, I think goaltending is just an importance in general in hockey, but especially in the playoffs, because like what happened last year when the Hurricanes played the Devils, they got to carry Schmid. He fell apart, and they got to the other goalie as well. And then you're looking at this series for the Islanders. The Hurricanes put up 7 against Varlamov in the first 2 games. The Islanders go to Sorokin for game 3. Sorokin doesn't even make it to halfway through the actual game. He got taken out before the halfway point of the second period. So you're looking for the fact that now you got the Islanders down to 1 goalie. Like Patrick Waugh pulled Sorokin in the first game of the series. He didn't even play half of the game. And then you got Varlamov in, and now you're kind of like, are we seeing a repeat of what it was last year? So, yeah, overall, goaltending is just an importance in general, just because of how the fact that it's like you need it for the playoffs. Because if you don't have a goalie in the playoffs, you're going to be in trouble if you're getting outscored and outmuscled almost every game. Thank you, Kat, for your question. I really appreciate that. This one is from Kate Britton. After a 3-game sample, even though they've been able to pull out the wins, do you think the Canes are playing the kind of hockey they need to play to make a very deep run? I would say that they are. I think they're making the necessary playing a kind of hockey that they do need to make a deep run, playing some solid defense. Outside of, for the fact that you look at the scores, outside of game 2, you've really held the Islanders to 3 goals in 2 games. You've held them to 6 in 3. So you're averaging right now 2 goals a game. And that's kind of what you want. If you can hold teams to under 3 goals a game and you're keeping them around 2, that's good. And that the fact that you're being able to score the necessary goals to win, the Hurricanes score 3, 5, and 3. So, I mean, you've scored 11 goals and you've only given up 6. So you're right now at a +5 goal differential in this series in 3 games. Yeah, you're getting someone like Tony DeAngelo who's coming in. He's mostly a healthy scratch all season, so he's coming in. But I think overall, yeah, I think they're playing a good style of team right now to where they can make a deep playoff run. You're getting scoring from pretty much everyone. Seth Jarvis has scored. Sebastian Aho has scored. Jordan Martinook. Like, you're getting guys who are scoring. Andrei Svechnikov's got 4 assists. Like, there's nothing. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. The blue line is scoring. So overall, you're getting the scoring from the usual suspects, and you're also getting that depth scoring as well. And the defense is playing great, and Frederik Andersen's been out of his mind in net. So I think right now they are playing some really great hockey in there. I mean, you really can't go wrong with how that's going for them right now. So, yeah, I definitely think that they're playing some phenomenal hockey, and I think they're playing a good style that will take them on a deep playoff run. So thank you to Kate for sending in your question. I really do appreciate that. And the last question is from Brandon Baker. Thoughts on Pesce being able to come back for the second round? As I said earlier, it's a possibility. They said he's out for the series, so we could potentially see him back for round 2. It's just not confirmed yet on what the timeline actually is. We could see him come back. He could be back for game 1 of round 2, or he might come back at some point in round 2, or there's a possibility maybe back for the conference final. So, like I said, right now, I couldn't really give you a certain percentage of how, like, the likelihood he'll be back for the second round. It all just depends on what, the tests come back and how, Rod Brind'Amour and his staff wanted to assess that. And, Tim Gleason thinks, and, Bill Bernstein and, all the head trainers and all that stuff too. So whatever Brett Brind'Amour and his staff decides is the good way to go about this, and just to see how Brett's health is. Yeah, he could be back, or he could be back later on in round 2 or in the conference finals. It'll be very interesting to see. But as of right now, he could be back. That's all I can really say. Other than that, I'm not really sure what the exact timeline is until we officially hear something from the Hurricanes themselves. But thank you, Brandon, for your question. I do really appreciate it as well. And like I said, thank you to everyone who did send in your questions. Like I said, I really love to do this more often as we go through the rest of the playoffs, off-season next year, and all that and beyond. But that will wrap up this episode of the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Big thank you to everyone who has been supporting the show. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at OneTrueZach. If you want to look for the podcast, it's LO_Hurricanes. I do have a link to my personal bio, and that's where you can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers, along with the Substacks and newsletters that I do for them as well. If you want to check out my, 1 episode a week show of the Surgecast, you can find links to the podcast and the YouTube channel on that side of things as well. And then if you want to check out where you can listen to this podcast on platforms, it's there's a link for that as well, along with the YouTube. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, turn on all notifications so you can listen and make sure that you won't miss an episode of this show on the YouTube side of things. And make sure to hit the thumbs up button, because I would really appreciate that as well. And share with other fellow everydayers or other Hurricanes fans so they can check out the show as well and help give us the growth that we really want to do. We want to make this one of the best Hurricanes podcasts out there. And we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're over at 800 now, pushing almost closer to 820, but I would love to get us to 1,000 because I want to do something special for you guys when we do get to 1,000 subscribers. And if you listen to the podcast version, if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate that as well, along with leaving a 5-star rating, because that'll help boost us up and get us more out there as well. And if you leave a rating with your 5-star review, I just might read it on the podcast. So if you could do that, really appreciate that. And if you are an everydayer, thank you, as always, for making this your first listen. And if you're new, I hope you become an everydayer, because I'd like to interact with everyone more in the comment section on YouTube or on social media as well, mainly Twitter and all that good stuff. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday. Hope everyone gets excited for Saturday for Game 4 for a possible sweep, hopefully. I guess we'll see. But until then, guys, as always, let's go Canes.